Hello, dear listeners. Today, we begin a story called The Last Message by Amjad, a creepy, mysterious, and very interesting tale. But this is not just a story. It is also your chance to learn and improve your English. We have made this story in easy English so that everyone, beginners, students, or even nervous learners, can enjoy it and learn at the same time. If you can understand this story from beginning to end, it means your English is already pretty good. So please don't think of this as just a scary tale. Think of this as your friendly English class, with a cool story to make learning fun. Now, let's begin the story. Her name was Carol Harper, a 32-year-old woman. Quiet, kind. She worked as a school librarian in a small town in Oregon. 2 weeks ago, her husband, Michael Harper, died in a car accident. It was sudden. It was painful. It broke her heart. The funeral was 2 days ago. His body was buried in the town cemetery near the old willow tree. Family and friends cried. Everyone said goodbye. But now, something strange was happening. It was late at night. Carol was sitting alone on her couch, holding her phone. Suddenly, ding! A voicemail alert. She opened it. It was from Michael's number. Yes, Michael, her dead husband. Her hand shook. Her heart raced. She pressed play. No words, just chewing sounds. 17 seconds of slow, wet chewing, like someone was eating something close to the phone. Carol froze. This message was new, but Michael was dead. And this was just the beginning. Did you understand most of this part? If yes, wonderful. You're doing great. If not, don't worry. You can replay, pause, and learn slowly. English is not a race. It's a journey. And together we're going to enjoy a great story and become better English speakers along the way. Carol sat on the couch, her eyes staring at the phone. She could not believe what she had just heard. The sound was strange, uncomfortable. It was soft and wet, like someone chewing something thick or sticky. But there were no voices, no words, just chewing. For 17 seconds. She checked the time. It was 11:47 p.m. She looked again at the number. It was Michael's number. She had not deleted his contact. She couldn't. His name still said Michael Love on her phone. But this message, it came 2 days after his funeral. That was impossible. Her heart started beating fast. Her hands felt cold. She listened to the message again. The same chewing. No background noise. No wind. No talking. Only the sound of someone's mouth. Felt like the chewing was too close to the microphone. Too close to be normal. Like the person was holding the phone right up to their lips. She got up and locked the door. She checked the windows. Everything was closed. Then she sat back down and stared at the screen. Her mind was full of questions. Who sent the message? Was someone using Michael's phone? Was it a joke? A prank? But no one had his phone. After the accident, the police had given it to her. It was broken. She had placed it in a box and kept it in the bedroom drawer. She had not touched it since the funeral. Slowly, she stood up. She walked to the bedroom, opened the drawer. The box was there. She opened the box. The phone was still inside. Cracked. dead, and used. She stepped back. Then she heard a small sound. A beep. Her phone. Another voicemail. She picked it up, afraid. This time there was no number. It said unknown. Her fingers shook as she tapped to play it. This time the message was just 4 words. You shouldn't have hung up. Her stomach dropped. She remembered now. She had ended the first message early. She was scared and pressed stop before it finished. But how did this message know that? How did it respond to her action? She looked around the room. Nothing moved. It was silent. But now she felt something different. A pressure in the air. A feeling that she was not alone. She backed into the living room and sat down again. She was trying to think clearly. She asked herself, what do I do now? Call the police? Tell someone? But what would she say? My dead husband just left me a voicemail. No one would believe her. She decided to check one thing. The cemetery. Maybe it would help her understand, or maybe just give her peace. The next morning, she drove to the cemetery. The sky was gray. The wind was cold. She walked to Michael's grave, near the willow tree. The ground looked normal. Flowers were still there. The stone was clean. But she had to know. She needed the truth. So she did something that most people would never think of doing. She asked the caretaker for permission to open the casket. Took time, paperwork, questions, a lot of tears. Finally, she got permission. The casket was opened, and that's when everything changed. Michael's body was still there, but something was wrong. His tongue was missing. Everything else was there. His clothes, his ring, his face. But his mouth looked strange, open slightly, and inside no tongue. Carol stepped back in horror. The man who was chewing on the message wasn't Michael. And that was when her phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. Carol could not take her eyes off the body. The missing tongue was not a small detail. It was strange. It was frightening. Tongues don't just disappear. And Michael's tongue had no reason to be removed. The doctors never said anything about it. The autopsy report showed nothing about it either. She remembered reading the report again and again. It said cause of death was head trauma from the car crash. Nothing more. She looked at the people around her. The caretaker, the grave workers, and one police officer were present. No one knew what to say. They all just stared, unsure how this could have happened. The officer asked if someone might have done this after burial. But there were no signs of forced entry. The grave was sealed properly. The casket was untouched from the outside. Carol's mind was not calm. She had more questions now than ever before. Who left the voicemail? Who knew she had stopped listening to the first message? And now, why was Michael's tongue missing? She walked away from the grave, slowly. Her hands were shaking, but she was not cold. It was fear. She felt something deep in her chest, like her body was warning her to run. But she didn't know where to go. As she reached her car, her phone buzzed again. A new voicemail. This time, her hand hesitated before picking it up. She didn't want to hear more, but she also needed to know. She sat in the car and played the message. It was a voice, a real voice this time, low, scratchy, not Michael. It said, "You found the mouth. Now find the rest." Carol froze. Her throat became dry. Her eyes didn't blink. She replayed the message. The words were clear. "You found the mouth. Now find the rest." What did that mean? Was it talking about Michael? Was it a clue? She quickly saved the message. Then she called the police officer who was still at the cemetery. She told him about the new voicemail. He listened, but he seemed unsure. He asked her to come to the station to report it. She agreed. At the police station, she gave her phone to the officer. He played the message again and looked concerned. He said the voice didn't match any record in their system. No known person or criminal. They also could not trace the number. It came from an unregistered signal. Carol asked them to investigate the missing tongue. They promised they would. But she could feel it in their voices. They didn't understand the full situation. They were thinking logically. She was feeling something else. That night, Carol could not sleep. Her thoughts were loud. Every small sound in the house made her heart jump. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in her hand, waiting, hoping there would be no new messages. But at 3:13 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. This time it was only breathing. Slow, heavy, as if the person was tired or standing very close to the phone. She pressed the phone to her ear, listening carefully. At the end of the breathing, there was a whisper. One word. Closer. She looked at the window. It was open. She clearly remembered closing it earlier. She stood up and walked toward it. The wind was quiet. The street outside was dark. No cars. No people. She closed the window and locked it. Then she walked around the house, checking all doors and windows. Everything else was closed. She sat down again. Suddenly, she remembered something from the second voicemail. The one that said, "You shouldn't have hung up." It meant the caller was watching. Watching in real time. Whoever it was. They could see her. They could hear her. She looked around her room again. Checked every corner. Nothing. Then, she remembered the smoke detector in the ceiling. She stood on a chair and opened it. There was a small black object inside. A tiny camera. She dropped it. Her hands started shaking again. She was being watched. Not just today. Not just now. But maybe for days. Maybe even before Michael died. Carol sat down on the floor, breathing hard. Her phone was still in her hand. She wanted to throw it away, but she couldn't. She needed it. It was the only thing connecting her to the mystery. It was the only source of the strange voice. But she also realized something else. The voice was leading her. It was giving her small clues. The chewing sounds. The missing tongue. The phrase, "Find the rest." And now a camera inside her home. This wasn't just about Michael's death. Someone was playing a game, and Carol was now part of it. Carol sat on the floor for a long time. She didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the small black camera that had fallen from the smoke detector. The truth was heavy now. Someone had been watching her, listening to her, maybe for weeks, maybe longer. Her hands were cold. Her thoughts were moving fast. She wanted to leave the house, but she didn't know where to go. And what would she tell people? That her dead husband was sending her messages? That someone had taken his tongue? That a hidden camera was found in her ceiling? No one would believe it. Not completely. Maybe not even the police. But she couldn't sit and wait. She had to do something. She picked up the small camera. It had no wires. It was wireless. Very small. She had seen something like this before in detective movies. This wasn't a cheap toy. It was real. Professional. Someone had planned this. She grabbed a flashlight and began searching the whole house. She checked the living room first. Looked under the table, behind the curtains, inside the lamps. Then the kitchen. Opened every cupboard. Checked the vents. In the dining room, she found something. Behind a picture frame on the wall, hidden near the corner, was another tiny camera. Just like the one in the bedroom. She removed it carefully. Now she was angry. She searched every room and found two more. One in the hallway light and another inside a small speaker in the guest room. 4 cameras in total. That meant whoever this person was, they could see her in every part of the house. They could watch everything she did, hear everything she said. Carol placed all the cameras on the table and took a picture of them with her phone. Then she called Officer Daniels, the same officer who helped her at the cemetery. She told him what she found. He came to the house within 20 minutes. He wore gloves and carefully collected the cameras. He said they would be sent to the lab for checking. Maybe they could find fingerprints or see where the cameras were bought. But he also looked worried. He told Carol, "If someone placed these here, they either had access to your house or they knew a lot about your life." Carol felt a chill. She had given a copy of her house keys to only 2 people, Michael and her best friend, Rachel. No one else. Rachel was out of town for the last 2 weeks. She had no reason to do this. And Michael was dead. That night, Carol packed a small bag and stayed in a motel. She kept her phone with her, still afraid but still waiting. She knew the messages were not finished yet. She was right. At 2:04 a.m., the phone buzzed. Another voicemail. She sat up in the motel bed and pressed play. The voice was clear now. Not loud. Not shouting. Just calm. It said, "You're getting closer, Carol, but you're not looking in the right place." Then it ended. She replayed the message. Again and again. The words were soft but serious. Almost like a teacher guiding a student. "You're not looking in the right place." Carol thought hard. She had searched her house. She had opened the grave. What was left? Then it hit her. Michael's phone. The broken one in the drawer. Maybe something was inside it. She checked the time. It was too late to go to her house again. But she couldn't sleep now. She waited until morning. At sunrise, she went back home. Officer Daniels had placed tape on the doors for safety, but she told him what she needed to do. He allowed her to go inside for a few minutes. She walked into the bedroom, opened the drawer, and took out the broken phone. The screen was cracked, but the phone itself was still solid. She didn't know much about phones, but she remembered Michael always kept a memory card in it. He used to say, "Everything important is on the card." She opened the back of the phone. The memory card was still there. She removed it gently and placed it into an old adapter she had in her drawer. Then she inserted it into her laptop. The screen blinked. A folder opened. At first, there were normal things, pictures of their vacation, videos of their dog, saved contacts. But then she saw something strange. A folder named Listen. It was hidden. She had to click a few times to even open it. Inside, there were 5 audio files. They were all short. Carol clicked the first one. It was a recording of Michael's voice. He sounded nervous. He said, "If you're hearing this, I found something I wasn't supposed to. I don't know who they are, but they're watching. They know everything. I'm gonna try and hide more files. I think they're listening through my phone. Maybe through the house. Be careful, Em." Carol stopped breathing. Michael knew. He knew something was wrong. He had tried to warn her. She opened the second file. Then the third. Each one gave more details. Michael was investigating something. He didn't say what, but he talked about strange calls, missing files from his computer, and someone following him after work. Carol played the 5th and final recording. Michael's voice was low, quiet. He said, "I think they know I'm getting close. If something happens to me, don't trust the evidence. Don't trust what the police say. My death won't be an accident." Carol's hands began to shake. Michael didn't die in an accident. Someone wanted him gone. And now they were coming after her too. Carol closed the laptop slowly. Her heart was heavy. Now everything made sense in a strange, terrifying way. Michael didn't die by chance. He knew someone was after him. He left these voice files for her, hoping one day she would find them. He had tried to protect her even after death. But why would someone do this to him? What had he found that was so dangerous? And who were they, the people he was talking about? Carol felt a mix of emotions. Sadness, fear, anger. But more than that, she felt a new sense of purpose. She couldn't stay quiet anymore. She had to finish what Michael had started. She copied the audio files onto a USB drive and took them straight to Officer Daniels. At first, he listened quietly. But after hearing Michael's voice say, "Don't trust what the police say," Daniel's face changed. He looked surprised, even hurt. Carol noticed and asked, "You believe me now?" Daniels nodded. "Yes, I do. And I think we need to move quickly." Daniels promised to send the audio files to a cyber investigation team. He also said he would look deeper into Michael's death report. Maybe something had been missed, or maybe something had been hidden. Later that evening, Carol went back to her motel. She sat near the window, thinking about everything. She remembered something from months ago. A late night when Michael had returned home upset. He didn't say much, just that he saw something strange at work. He had been working on a big project for a private tech company, but he never told her the name of the company or what he was doing. He said it was better if you don't know. That night felt different now. She opened her notebook and began writing down everything she could remember from the past few months. Michael's habits, things he said, anything that felt unusual. She made a timeline. When the strange calls began, when his mood changed, when he started locking his laptop. And one name stood out, a man named Andrew Clark. Michael had mentioned him once, just once. He said Andrew was the team leader. Very strict. Very secretive. Michael said Andrew always made him feel like something was wrong. Like he was being tested. Carol searched for Andrew Clark online. It was a common name, but after looking for over an hour, she found something interesting. A blog post from an old employee of a company called Novatech Systems. It talked about a man named Andrew Clark who worked in their security division. The post didn't say much, but one sentence caught her eye. He knew everything about everyone, even things we never told anyone. Carol's eyes widened. Novatech Systems. That was the company Michael once mentioned when talking in his sleep. He said, "They're always listening." Nova. Carol emailed Officer Daniels about the company and the name. He replied a few hours later. The email said, "We're checking into it. In the meantime, stay somewhere safe. Don't go home." Carol didn't need that warning twice. She booked another motel in a different part of the city, paid in cash, and used a name that wasn't hers. That night, she didn't get any voicemails, but she had a strange dream. In the dream, she was walking through her old house. It was empty, but she could hear chewing. That same chewing sound from the first voicemail. It was loud, but she couldn't see where it was coming from. Then she saw Michael. He was standing at the end of the hallway, but something was wrong. His mouth was moving, but no sound came out. His tongue was gone. Blood dripped down his chin. He pointed at her, then at the wall. Over and over again. She woke up with a scream. Her heart was racing, her skin cold. The dream felt like a message. Was she missing something in the house? Was there something hidden in the wall? The next day, Officer Daniels called. He had news. The cyber team had checked the cameras. They found out that the devices were all linked to a hidden server. A private system that was trying to delete its data the moment it was accessed. That meant someone was still watching in real time. And worse, someone knew they were being tracked. Daniels said, "This is not some random stalker. This is a group, a system, and they're professionals." Carol asked, "What do they want from me?" He replied, "I don't know yet, but I think you're the key." Later that day, she received a package at the motel front desk. No name, no return address. Inside was a single item, a thumb drive, and a note. "Play this. Alone." Carol looked at the note for a long time. Should she play it? Should she give it to the police? Her hand trembled, but something inside her said she needed to listen. She returned to her room, locked the door, closed the curtains, and placed the thumb drive into her laptop. There was only one file on it, a video file named The Last Truth. She clicked play. The screen went black for a moment. Then Michael appeared. It was a video of him. He looked serious, pale, like he had recorded this under pressure. He said, "If you're watching this, they got to me. But it's not just about me. It's bigger, much bigger. The chewing sound, it's not what you think. It's not from me. It's from the other side. They don't want you to know." The screen flickered. Michael leaned closer and whispered, "They eat what we say. They eat our words. That's why I sent you the sounds. That's why they took my tongue. The video cut off. Carol sat frozen. Now she knew. The chewing wasn't just noise. It was a warning, a message, a clue. And whatever was behind this, it was far more terrifying than she could have ever imagined. Carol sat still for a long time. The video of Michael kept playing in her head. His voice, his eyes, the fear in his words. It all felt too real. She now believed that he was not just scared before he died. He knew something dark, something that others didn't want anyone to know. And they silenced him in a horrible way. Not just by killing him, but by taking his tongue, the very part that lets a person speak the truth. She stared at the laptop screen. The video had ended, but her questions had not. What did he mean by, "They eat our words"? Who were they? And how could chewing sounds be connected to such a big secret? Carol took a notebook and wrote down everything she heard Michael say. Then she thought about his last sentence. That's why they took my tongue. Suddenly, something clicked in her mind. If Michael knew they were listening, then maybe the chewing sound in the voicemail wasn't just a creepy noise. Maybe it was the sound of something taking in information, like a creature or machine that fed on words, unspoken truth. Maybe the voicemails were being used to deliver a warning through those sounds, in a way normal people couldn't understand. Carol remembered that, in the last dream, Michael had pointed at the wall. At the time, it felt like a random dream detail. But now it felt more important. She had to go back to their old house. She needed to check the walls. Maybe Michael had hidden something there. She told Officer Daniels about her plan. He wasn't happy, but he agreed to meet her there the next morning. When Carol reached the house, it felt cold, even though it was a sunny day. The windows were dusty. The grass outside had grown tall. Everything looked forgotten, as if the house knew the man who once lived there was never coming back. She walked into the living room first, slowly and carefully. She looked at every wall. Then she went upstairs into the bedroom. That was where the dream had taken place. She stopped in front of the wall at the end of the hallway, the same one Michael pointed to. She pressed her hand on the wall and knocked gently. Hollow. She knocked again, listening closely. The sound was different in the middle. She took a small hammer from her bag and began to break the wall carefully. After just a few hits, a piece of wood cracked. Behind it was a small, hidden space. Inside that space, there was a box. Carol reached for it slowly, her hands shaking. She opened the box. There were only two things inside: a small digital recorder and a folded piece of paper. She opened the paper first. It was written in Michael's handwriting. It said, "They're not human. They are old. They live in sound. In our devices. They listen. They learn. And when we know the truth, they eat it. To stop them, you must be silent." Carol couldn't believe what she was reading. It sounded impossible. But after everything she had seen, heard, and felt, she couldn't ignore it anymore. She turned on the digital recorder. There was only one recording on it. Michael's voice came through, but this time, it was not calm or soft. It was fast, scared, rushed. "Carol, I saw it happen. I was reviewing audio files when I noticed something strange. Parts of the recordings were missing, like someone had eaten chunks of the voice out. I followed the data trail. It led to a lab underground. Novatech was experimenting with a sound-based life form, a creature made of frequency. They called it Echo 9. It feeds on human speech. It enters systems through microphones. The chewing sound is what it makes when it processes our words. He paused, took a deep breath, then continued. They thought it was a tool, something they could control, but it grew smarter. It started choosing what to eat. Truth, secrets, warnings. That's when I knew I was in danger. I tried to expose them, but they got to me first. Then, his final words in the recording. If you're hearing this, you're in danger too. The more you speak, the more it knows. Don't talk near your phone. Don't use voice messages. And Carol, never answer a call if you hear chewing. Carol turned off the recorder and sat down. Everything made sense now. Michael's voice message after his funeral wasn't a ghostly event. It was Echo 9 reaching out, not to warn but to feed. Suddenly, she remembered the voicemail she received after opening the casket. You shouldn't have hung up. It wasn't a threat from a person. It was the creature. It wanted more. More words. More truth. It didn't like being ignored. Carol picked up her phone. She went to delete the voicemail, but it was already gone. Instead, there was a new one. Just one word in the message. Hungry. Carol felt a chill run down her spine. She now knew the truth. A creature was hiding in sound, in recordings, in voice messages. It was listening. It was watching. And now it was coming for her. Carol stood in her old house, holding the phone, staring at the screen. The word hungry from the latest voicemail echoed in her head. The air around her felt heavy, like the walls were closing in. She didn't know where the message had come from, but she was sure now it was not from a person. It was from Echo 9, and it wanted more. She remembered what Michael had said in the recording. It feeds on human speech. It enters systems through microphones. Don't talk near your phone. That meant even now it could be listening. Through the phone in her hand. Through the laptop she brought. Through anything with a microphone. Carol quickly turned off every electronic device around her. She even pulled out the battery from her phone, just to be sure. She sat on the floor, breathing quietly. She had to think clearly. Echo 9 had already killed Michael. It was watching her now, and it wanted her to talk. Every time she used her voice, she was feeding it, giving it power. That's why Michael said the only way to stop it was to stay silent. But how long could someone stay silent in today's world? Phones, smart devices, meetings, calls, our voices were everywhere. She realized this was bigger than just her and Michael. Echo 9 was out in the world. Could be inside anyone's phone. In offices, homes, schools. It was everywhere sound existed. Carol opened Michael's notebook again. On the last page, he had written a question. If a creature feeds on truth, what happens if it hears a lie? That made her stop and think. Maybe, just maybe, if this creature only wanted truth, real secrets, deep fears, confessions, then it could not survive on false information. Maybe a lie could poison it, hurt it, stop it. Carol came up with a plan, a risky one, but it was all she had. She took an old tape recorder. No internet, no connection to anything else. Just a simple voice recorder with batteries. She began to speak into it. Not the truth, but lies. Many lies. My name is Rachel, not Carol. My husband is alive and well. I don't know anything about Echo 9. I have never received a strange voicemail. She continued this for 10 minutes, filling the recording with false stories, wrong names, twisted facts. She spoke slowly and clearly, letting her voice echo in the empty room. When she finished, she placed the tape in the box where she had found Michael's recorder. She sealed the box and left it at the same spot in the wall. She then covered the hole, careful not to leave any sign it had been opened. The plan was simple. Echo 9 found its targets through audio devices, and if it came back to search for more recordings in that house, it would find this one. A recording full of lies. If Michael was right, the creature might try to feed and choke. Carol left the house without saying another word. Days passed, then weeks. She kept her phone off most of the time. She stopped talking when she didn't have to. She wrote things down, used hand gestures, whispered only when alone. She changed her number. She bought an old phone with no microphone, and slowly the voicemails stopped. She visited Michael's grave again. This time, there was peace in her heart, not just because she knew the truth, but because she had done something about it. Maybe the creature was gone, maybe not, but for now it was silent. Before leaving the graveyard, she saw a woman sitting near another grave. The woman looked sad, lonely. Carol smiled gently at her. The woman smiled back. Then the woman's phone rang. She answered it. Carol heard it, very softly, chewing sounds. Carol walked away without a word. She couldn't save everyone, but she had learned something important. Sometimes silence is not empty. Sometimes silence is safety. And sometimes silence is the loudest scream of all. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story and learned something new today. If you'd like to read the full story again or share it with others, you can download the PDF version of this audiobook for free. Just click the link in the description below and get your copy now. Keep learning and stay tuned for more stories to improve your English. Happy reading!